That's all it was. We're just fixing cars. That's what we're doing, and it's all these complicated things, but the manufacturers built those cars. And that certification process goes right back to them saying, hey, this is how you do it. And it
Yeah.
lets you sleep at night saying, I did it that way. And that's
Right.
repair procedures, but there's a whole lot more to those repair procedures when you're
Yeah.
certified.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to today's episode of the Body Bangin podcast. And we're talking about today something that really honestly frustrates me about something going on in our industry, and it has to do with certifications. My feeling is there's a big push for shops to get certified, and I understand why. But then I get frustrated because I don't feel like the manufacturers are doing their part to help support the collision industry on this. So I'm just going to throw that out there right at the front of this. And we're going to get into it on how you can maximize these certifications in your shop, but then also talk about, even if you're just starting with certifications, some things to be thinking about. So on the podcast today, we've got some board members from the Tennessee Collision Repairers Association. We've got Steve Fishe. Hi, Steve.
Thank thank you.
Steve is owner of Plan B Auto Body. He's the president there of the association. We've got Jerry Dalton. What's up, Jerry?
Hello.
You may not know Jerry, but Jerry's got a couple shops out in Tennessee. And funny enough, the shop name is Dalton Collision. Jerry Dalton. I like it. Creative. So he's a board member out there. And then we've got Brent Henkle. I know a lot of you guys know Brent. Hi, Brent.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. Brent is joining us. He's on vacation, but he's popping in anyway. So what a guy. I love it. A lot of you guys know Brent. He's part of the Elite Body Shop Solutions crew. So he's one of the trainers there and has a lot of experience in this realm and a lot of other things as well. But thanks, guys, for joining. We were talking a little bit ago because I don't know if you all know, but the Tennessee Association is going to be putting on the Music City Collision Conference. And that's a conference for the first time ever is happening in Nashville, Tennessee this year in September. I know, exciting. Let me just give you those dates real quick. Here it is September 26th and 27 in Nashville. There's going to be a link below for you guys to register. But we were talking as they're getting ready to put on this amazing conference, and we were talking about the certification issue. And I asked them if they would be open to talking about this with you guys because, and I call it an issue because it's not necessarily a problem. It's just something we deal with. And that is a lot of these certifications cost a lot of money. Jerry at Dalton Collision has, how many certifications do you even have, Jerry? Do you know?
14.
14. He's only has 14. So,
14. There's a lot more, but I'm somewhere in the middle, I guess. I
yeah.
think I have like 25, some people, but we're
Yep.
we're at 14.
Yeah. And I'm sure that's happened through a process. You don't just start with 14. Where did you start at? What lines did you start with?
So I think it was probably 2014, maybe 2015. We started with Assured Performance, which was pretty much, the domestics
Hmm.
and, the Ford, GM, Chrysler, and also I think it was Nissan Infiniti at the time.
Yep.
And then that kind of grew into the Honda certification program, which was separate from Assured Performance. So there was that. And then over time, we picked up some good ones. We picked up Tesla and Rivian. Recently, we just picked up Toyota and Lexus. So those
Great.
are huge. But yeah.
Awesome. So when you started with the Assured Performance certifications, for those of you guys that are familiar with certifications, I'm going to backtrack it because we have listeners who know, we all have different education levels and we're all still learning on the topic. So, Assured Performance, with those certifications, you don't need to get a sponsorship from a dealership to get certified. So, for example, if you want to go be BMW certified, Porsche certified, something like that, you actually have to go to a dealership. they have to make sure they don't already have a certified shop in your area. And if they don't, or they're allowed to have multiple, then they can sponsor you. So they're kind of rubber stamping you. They put you up to be able to get certified. So the assured performance certifications that Jerry's talking about, those you can sign up through Assured Performance. You pay your fee. And what does the auditing process look like with Assured Performance with those certifications?
So they kind of call it something else now. I think it's, I'm not sure the exact, I think it's OE Connection. They actually bought out Assured Performance. So they don't really call it Assured Performance anymore. And I'm kind of, I forgot the exact name for it right now. Brent, do you know that exactly
Not
what
sure.
they call it now? So
Yeah, it could be
anyway,
OE Connect.
I think
OE Connect.
it's a part of
So
OEC.
starting out back in the day, they actually did want, they wanted to do some sponsorships. It was usually somebody you bought your parts from.
Mm.
It wasn't as crucial as like say Porsche or Audi or one of those. But they actually did want you back in the day, back when I signed up. They wanted some dealer to sponsor you. But now it's pretty much you don't have to. You are correct. It doesn't require any dealership sponsorships. But so anyway, I got sidetracked on that. What was the rest of the question?
I know with the higher level certifications, meaning
Yep.
the more expensive, you have to have a dealer sponsorship. They're pretty strict with their auditing procedures. I know Subaru's very strict where they come out, on a yearly basis, whatever that is, and they're check. Brent, do you know like the frequency or?
Usually once a year.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I think Jerry would agree to. Yeah.
Once a year, and I would say the OE Connection or the Sure Performance, they're not as strict as say for instance, Subaru's pretty strict. That's one we got. They're pretty strict. Rivian, Tesla, Toyota is very strict. But yeah, I would say the Assured Performance ones are less restrictive, but they still, I get where some people say, well, they're not as strict as another one, and that could be really, not good for shops because, if you're doing it right, you want to get a little more status there, but,
Right.
I would like to see them be a little bit more stricter on things and maybe, have to, pass certain things and verify things like you do with other certs. That's the only downfall, but but it does, it's good for marketing and, once you get on their program, it's all, as far as whether it's worth it or not, it's all about what you put into it.
Mm.
So when you've got these certifications, you're not leveraging them, you're not marketing, and you're not actively going to dealerships and saying, hey, if you've already got a body shop, can we be your second body shop or can we be on your referral list and that kind of thing? So
Yeah.
it's an avenue that you could do to try to capture more work. So I would say for the person that's contemplating, is it worth the money or not? Depends on how much time and effort you put in because it costs you the same amount of money no matter whether you market it or you don't. So it's kind of up to you.
Great point. Great point.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of shops that will sign up for those certifications. They think it's just going to march work through the door. And oftentimes, well, most of the time, which is interesting, it leads me to another point. I have so many things to say on this topic. With with those kind of membership certifications, some people call them, the dealership doesn't even know that you signed up, that you are a certified shop for them. So if you're not telling them and informing them that, hey, guess what? We're your new partner, whether you want it or not, how are they going to know to send the work to you?
Yeah, that's good. Well, the consumers on some of them, like Nissan, Stellantis, I'm a Jeep owner and I can hit a little tow truck on my screen and it says, here's, is this a mechanical breakdown or were you in a collision? And it sends me to only certified shops.
Right.
So that's a good way to do it. It's a great effort. It's not the answer. That's not
Right.
going to anybody there because they also have an insurance company that says, hey, you call us. But then you
True.
also have leasing companies that say, hey, no, you call me first. I'll tell you where you're getting
Right.
my car fixed. You're just renting it. You're a leaser or lessor, whatever you want to say. So some people don't understand that you did sign a document that says you will go back to that leasing company to say where you're going to get your work done. And in
Mm,
the case of the Stellantis or Nissan, they're going to send you to a certified shop.
right.
That's exactly how some of that should happen. But there's also other players out there that are getting first notice of loss and things like that. So I do think the education process, that first contact, is so important to make
Mm,
sure that you are marketing one-on-one with that customer why that certification is so important.
yeah.
And even if you're not certified in that brand, you're certified in other brands, at least you have a third party certification process that says you're doing what you should to be a quality shop. So
Yeah.
not so really use it even when you're not certified. That, hey, we have a certification with one manufacturer. They come in, they inspect everything, they make sure we're trained. We have all the right equipment, we have all the right training, we have all the right people, and we're going to fix your car to OE certification standards. I think that's super important to a consumer.
Absolutely. Well, they don't know what they don't know. The consumer, from a consumer perspective, a big part of marketing, what I do is, in a shop, we do what we do all the time, and we forget to put on the consumer hat sometime. And so we really have to look at it from the consumer perspective. And the consumer perspective is, you're certified in Honda. Isn't everybody? Like, can't everybody fix a Honda? You're certified. What does that mean? It's just like when you go to the mechanic shop and it has the ACE
Mhm.
certification up on the wall. You're like, well, isn't every mechanic ACE certified? Like, they don't know because nobody's ever told them, nobody's ever taught them. It's not something really anybody talks about. And then but then all of a sudden the body shop thinks, well, what do you mean you don't? the, we're certified. Don't you know what that means? Like, who's going to tell them? Who's teaching them this? And oftentimes, because I've done marketing for years for my own shop, and then I did it for other shops, where I would go up to the dealerships on behalf of the shop or my shop at the time. And you really have to teach the service writers. You have to teach the salespeople, even the service managers. You would think that they would have an understanding, but they don't know. So I think there's a big disconnect. That's why I said up at the front of the show, the manufacturers really, I wish they were giving more support to help everybody involved understand the complexity and the importance of certified repairs.
Yeah. So specifically, when I bought my last Jeep, he took me to that site. The salesperson did.
Really?
He took me, he had me loaded up, and he showed me what I do if I'm in a wreck. He walked me right through it. So I know,
Wow.
and I already knew what he was showing me. So you know
Yeah.
what I mean? And I was like, that's pretty cool. And I do think it's the salesperson that puts him in that car that
Mm,
really sets the expectation of, I want your car back. I want you to trade it in with me. And I want it to have quality repairs. And I
yeah.
think that's true ownership, by a
Protect the brand.
manufacturer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So I have a question for you guys. Jerry, what was your perception? What was your idea? What did you want from becoming certified way back when?
Well, I wanted to differentiate myself from other shops. So I always felt like me and a few others, we're not your average body shop, man. We work hard, we train hard, we play hard. And, coming to my shop or coming to, some people I know, good shop owners in the area, we're different, and it's like, it tastes the same. So the way the bill payer looks at it, like, well, why should I, go to your shop? This guy over here will do it over here for this much, or this guy will, so what's the difference between us? Well, number one, it starts with repair the vehicle the way the manufacturer says to repair it. We've always had that mentality. Most of us, it's been in the industry for a long time before, we really knew about OE certs. I mean, OE certs are not new. They've been around for, as long as I've been in the body shop business, but they were new to me at the time. I mean, I've been in business for probably 10 years before we got concept that, it could be done at Fords and Chevys and, your common daily drivers instead of your high end cars, which was kind of cars we were repairing. But, it was eye opening like, hey, we're doing this anyway. So now we can differentiate ourselves from the next guy, that's probably not, as detail oriented as we are, or at least, trying to use OE parts and repair the vehicle, the OE way. So for us, it was a different, how to differentiate yourself from, all the rest of the guys, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's what a lot of people are looking for, the differentiator, um, and a way to build value in their shop that I'm here to fix your vehicle, but and it goes with the differentiator. And it's always about what makes you, what sets you apart from everybody else. And that, I think, is what you were echoing, Jerry, in your message of the frustration of, I wish there were more parameters on these membership type certifications, that not just anybody can sign up, because if it really is a differentiator, then there should be some level, potentially, who am I to say, but so potentially some level of what is an acceptable repair versus not acceptable repair, because anybody can say they're fixing the vehicle according to the manufacturer repair procedures, but who's doing it? There's really no testing verifying any of that, at least through the subscription model.
Yeah, I agree. And
Yeah.
I think that is a frustration. We would, more shops, we would like to see it be a little bit, stronger. We'd like more teeth in it. And, without getting into the specifics, some manufacturers do a lot better job than others.
Yeah.
And they'll pull you off the program if you're not doing it the way you're supposed to. And that's the way it should be. It shouldn't just be checking a box and you're certified, because then you're no different than all the rest of the guys, really, so.
Right. Now, you had mentioned, a couple of things I want to hit on. Brent, great point with the sales department. So it's something that we forget about, especially in the collision side, because we're so used to working with service departments. We got to send it up there for whatever. So we're talking to the service writers, because oftentimes service writers do refer work to the body shop. That happens very frequently. So making that connection with those folks, but taking it the step further in sales, a lot of people will call their salesperson, I guess would be the politically correct term, to see who they should go to. And like you said, so whoever, I would be curious to know at that dealership, somebody put in some time to go up there and educate that dealership and the sales team, and got either the sales manager, the general manager bought in to incorporate that into that sales and delivery process. That's pretty incredible, honestly.
What I think gives credit to the manufacturer too. Say, hey, we're going to
True.
make it easy. You don't go anywhere else. This is your app. It shows you when to do oil changes. It takes care of you when you wreck your car, if your car breaks down. And even like, in some cases, there's a free tow bill. The free towing into the closest certified shop can be there. So
Yeah.
I think those are things where manufacturers are really stepping up, trying to make it. It's a fight for that first notice of loss. I think it's always been a fight for that. But like my salespeople, I've always been in the business, so I know it. And like you said, I got to forget everything I know.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I don't know anything. Just act like it's your first day.
Yes.
And that's what all our customers are doing. So it's their first day. So what are all the things that I might run into? Well, hey, do I have free roadside assistance? Do I have, the salespeople should be doing that? Do they cover that to say, hey, when you have this, you've got 3 years or whatever, that's covered. You don't need it anywhere else. Not cutting anybody down, but just really educating that customer, say, this is where you should go. This is the best place. We're taking care of you. Both us and the manufacturers, the dealership and them, say, hey, well, we've answered all your questions before you ask them. And here's where you go. So some of those apps are great.
Yeah.
I can start my car with it. I can do whatever with it. You can do all that.
Right.
It warns me when I'm coming up for an oil change. It checks me, if there's whatever, a safety campaign or whatever, it just pops up on my phone. So it gets rid of those worries. But then when I do wreck my car, my world just stopped. I ain't got no car.
Right.
I go to the easiest place right away. And I think if, the more they do to make that easier for the consumer to get into that quality OE, the OE repair procedure, the better. If they got to get one extra step, it's too much. It's too much.
Yeah.
There's going to go right to their insurance contact. And I don't have a problem with insurance companies. I hate when people say that. I do not. Okay. They've got what they do, and you bought your policy from them, and they've got to, they're going to tell you where they want you to go. So there's going to be a little bit of rub on that.
Right.
You mentioned FNOL, that's the buzzword, first notice of loss, and that's where it's at. And I think the better manufacturers that, try to get to the consumer and there's apps that you can get on your phone. There's ways to contact. So the ones that do a better job at the first note of loss, they get to them first. That's what the battle is, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's good for the shops that are certified, so.
So one of the certifications I had was, I'm not going to say which one it is because I want to give credit for all of them if they do this, is I was their shop. I worked with their salespeople. I came in every 3 months. They would have a quarterly, every car they sold, whether it was used or new. They took all the cars out of the showroom and they put people in there and they catered them dinner. The
Wow.
dealership. And they talked to them about, they had their service team there was serving them. We were there. It was a little bit of a hassle because every quarter we're at multiple locations helping them. They treated the people that are more important than the car. And so it was really cool. But one thing we did is we had a presentation to talk to them about what to do if you get in a wreck, what kind of things to put on your insurance. Is there an OE rider you can put on insurance? How much that cost is if it's available. Talk about rental car coverage. Talking about the things you need to do in a wreck situation to make sure that you've got all the information necessary where you don't get burnt. So really kind of going through that. And they even put a flyer in there. Here's, if you get in a wreck, here's a checklist. What you go through to capture information so that you're covered, because, and so it was such a great relationship, and it came from a certification and it came from a dealer and the sales and service department. We had a great relationship with them. So I think that certification creates that bond.
So Brent, your shop, so the dealership put on something for everybody that had just purchased a vehicle.
Every 3 months they would bring
every 3 months they would bring everybody back. If you purchase a vehicle, you're welcome to come to this free event.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And wow, that's a great,
it was amazing.
Yeah,
catered and great Italian meal. Vendors were there, for things that people might want to buy. We were there, and we were. I swear to God, we were part of the. We were their body shop. That's the way they treated. It was tough. I mean, every delivery was coming from that salesperson. But they held us accountable. We didn't.
Yeah.
It was tough, but we got amazing amount of work from that.
Oh, I bet. Well, yeah, because then everybody in the whole dealership knows. And I mean, even for body shop. So if you're a body shop, I'm looking at it from the body shop manager owner perspective. If you're a shop and you have a certification like that, go to the dealership and present it to the GM. And if you're in a financial position to be able to help offset those costs, potentially say, I'll help. I can give X amount of dollars, it's a write-off for you as marketing and advertising. You can do X amount of dollars, or we'll provide the food or whatever that may be. Let's start doing an event and help them get it going. Because if they've got to do it on their own, they may be less likely to do it. But if they know they have your support, I mean, we're really at the end of the day, we should all be in partnership with each other. If you're certified with a vehicle, it should be the manufacturer, the dealership, and the collision center all together as one. And it's oftentimes just seems fractured. Or the body shop, we feel like the redhead stepchild. It's like the dealership and the manufacturer, they're always working together, but what about us? So it's like, how do we create that? I think it's a great way to let your dealership know, like, I'm here for you. I want to partner with you. Whatever you need, we're in this together. I think that's a big piece of it, that you're not going away. And like you said, it is work. It's work to do it, but anything worth having is worth the work to do to get it and keep it. Now, Jerry, I wanted to push back over to you real quick for a second, because you had talked about no use getting it. It costs the same amount getting it, whether you're going to try to market it or not. And you mentioned the dealership. What are you guys doing with your local dealerships to market those certifications to them?
So Brent just gave me some good ideas there. What he did, I can't say we're doing it to that level, but to be honest, I feel like we could do a better job at showing appreciation and educating our dealers.
Mm-hmm.
So we do have good relationships with them. We try to, obviously try to, buy all of our parts, from them, for a partnership. But that's one area, I guess, that I could do a lot better job on, is trying to, just more one-on-one with them, because, it's appreciation thing, they're probably referring you a lot more business than you realize,
Yeah.
And but just like Brent was saying, just educating them. And I think that's, a great idea, bring new car owners in because it's, not all of them are going to show up, obviously, but some will. But, those are your best customers are word of mouth. So
Mhm.
word of mouth marketing, whether it's those new, customers or you're also educating the dealership as well, whether it be the salespeople or the people in the service department. But, it's a great idea. We could do a better job at that, and that's something that's going to be a challenge for me personally to try to make sure we are leveraging that, more than what we are.
I want to
So,
bring up the battle between being an OEM shop and then the insurance company writing for counterfeit parts. How are you guys dealing with that battle?
Well, me personally, what we do is, I looked at my usage for the first the first 4 months of this year, January to April, and we had 98% OE parts usage. We had 1% LKQ or used parts, and about 1% aftermarket. Now, some of that is like if it's running boards or, maybe it's, an aftermarket accessory,
Unavailability.
yeah, sometimes people put like, something off, they buy, their headlights different and you got to match up what's on their vehicle, so we're kind of counting that, but I know they write for that and, I guess it's in their policy, the insurance company, when they write a policy, it's built in. So, there's obviously some policy difference there. Most time people opt for the cheaper policy, but it's a conversation, that we have with our customers. One of the first things we do on an intake form is, we explain the parts and you ask people, they want OE part because most people know that the parts are real important. They want OE parts and it's a conversation, but it might be something that they're out of pocket on, but you have that conversation with them or, there's also, price matching, everybody in our industry talks about that. There's a lot of shops that do that. And, at the end of the day, we try to work with customers as much as possible. But and then we've got good dealerships that do price match. So, there's not a big argument there between the insurance company and that kind of thing. But
Hey, Jerry, on the
at
price
the end of the
matching
day,
thing,
you wanna-
well, not to interrupt you, but I just did. I apologize. But do any of your certifications help specifically because you're certified to have better price matching? Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah. I think, in my humble opinion, they're going to help non-certified shops just as much as they do. I don't think just being certified really makes that much difference. But they all have programs, and while they have that program, they're trying to compete with the aftermarket. So, they want to get as many parts out there, and it helps the dealerships. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Brent, most of that's subsidized by the OE. So when you see price matching, it's not something the dealership can afford to do. A lot of people think, well, this dealer over here will do this, but this one won't. Well, it's not really the dealership. They've got to make a living too, and they're working most of the time on a really tight margin. These dealerships that. It's good to know that you can pick up the phone and call a dealership and they'll have your parts to you tomorrow because they stock a lot of these parts. Well, that costs them money to stock those parts.
Yep.
So you got to respect, the dealership and their margin that they got. So obviously some manufacturers sponsor that more than others. But yeah, to answer your question, I think they'll do it for anybody that does it. But it's, back to the original question,
Yeah.
nobody really wants to use. I tell people this: your car's been wrecked. It's hard enough to, get it to line up right with OE parts, much less, counterfeit parts or whatever you want to call it.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah, besides the safety, if it gets into
Yeah.
another accident,
That's
the
a big
structural
thing, yeah.
integrity and whatnot. And just so everybody kind of knows, Steve's asking some great questions. I love the line of thought, Steve, because Steve's getting into the OE certification world of things. And that's what I love. It's the beauty of our industry. I mean, there's so many people at different levels at different times for different reasons. And what, Steve, has made you start to go down this road now? And you've been in business for a very long time. So what's the thought process for you getting into it now?
My I've got a great team here. My guys are hungry. They're wanting to learn more, right? We want to know how to fix these cars correctly. We've been using procedures for a while now. And the more you can educate them and your customer at the same time, I think it is certainly a win.
Mm.
Now, I've got a question for you guys as well. Are you guys seeing the difference in procedures between recommended and required? Are y'all having any pushback on that?
With who? The insurance company?
We're seeing some insurance companies say if something's recommended, then it's not required.
Right.
But if they, I was talking to an OEM last week about just their wording and their procedures. Recommended means you need to do it. Required, that's a gray line there. Are you guys seeing any of that pushback from the insurance companies?
We see a little bit of everything. I mean, obviously some don't really care, they'll just say that. I think the big issue with your bill payers is if it's related to safety. So anything that's really not related to safety, and then you got to ask the question, well, what on the vehicle is not related to safety? Because
Right.
everything about that car is safety, right? But what I hear out of their mouth is if it's not related to safety, it's kind of, but it all goes back, Steve, to, what's recommended, what's required. It's just, with an engineer, when you say required, that means you do it. If an engineer says it's recommended, I'll put it to you this way. You let the city or the county come in and do a building with you, and you try to put some stuff in that they say it's in the codes. They say if they tell you it's recommended and you don't do it, guess what? You don't get a certificate of occupancy.
Right.
It's simple. Why should somebody get their car back and be safe to put on the road if you don't follow the recommended procedures? So it's kind of, in my opinion, kind of goes hand in. But to answer your question, we see it a lot.
Yeah.
And most of it's related to what they call safety. So
I work with manufacturers a lot in my past, and one of the biggest things is that I go back to from a manufacturing and from a mechanical standpoint is your oil changes are recommended. They're not required. It's recommended maintenance. If you have an oil consumption problem and you claim warranty and you didn't change your oil, they're not covering it.
True.
Yeah.
So what they're recommending, and I think when you go to the Japanese, they don't print it unless it's important. They're both our words. They don't print it unless it's important. They wouldn't even put it in there. So whether it says recommended or required, to them is the same word, because you want quality repairs, you want cars to run as long as they should, and you want cars to be as safe as they should be. So I know there's some overall things that says, hey, we can't guarantee the safety of a vehicle if it uses any aftermarket parts. That's in some of their statements, and that's a pretty strong one. And that is the manufacturer sticking up for their parts. But there's also the pink elephant in the room that says, of course they want to sell their own parts. They make them and they want to sell them. You know what I mean? So
True.
I mean, there's I get it. You're like, okay, of course you mandate that you have to use them, but how do you prove that a car would crash the same way with an aftermarket as an OEM unless you actually crash them? And that's the real rub. And it's something that everybody's dealing with it right now, especially with volume a little low. People are pushing around a little bit. You're just getting people being strong-armed a little bit, I think, more than normal.
Yeah.
But going back to that point, I think the consistency of the manufacturers and even us as a state, as a state organization, at TCRA, we could probably do more of trying to put things in there that says, hey, let's talk to the legislation and say, it's the same word. Recommended and required. It's just something that's a push. And I'm challenging you guys, Steve, specifically. Okay. You know what I'm saying? I'm not, and it's not a funny thing, but it's like, there are states that are pushing things out there right now to say, hey, you have to recognize OE procedures. That's getting put in place, right?
And a lot of good things coming from Texas.
Yep. So, and everybody says, well, why do they have to do that? Well, because of what you guys are being challenged with every day. It's not an argument. It's just what way should it be?
Yeah, I think it's good that the state will clearly define so it don't, when it's left up to interpretation, then the bill payer gets to interpret, what happens, and that's unfortunate. But it really should be all the issues, like you say, like between recommended and required, let's put it in writing. Let's get together and have a playbook and say this is what it's going to be.
Well, and I do think that manufacturers should take some onus on this, that it's their responsibility. They know the game, they know it's being played. Do we need to do it or do we not need to do it? And call it what it is. I think Hyundai, if I'm not mistaken, recently just changed some of their procedures to say required versus recommended. So there are manufacturers that are stepping up to the plate and shifting wording because they know it makes a difference. At the end of the day, though, I mean, most shops that are really pushing forward with being OE certified, following the repair procedures, they're doing it. Doesn't matter what the insurance company says or doesn't say. This is the proper and safe way to fix the vehicle. This is what we're doing. And beyond that, we'll help educate the consumer. And then the consumer can go to bat with the insurance company. Consumer is the one with the contract with the insurance company. So as far as certifications are concerned, whether you're certified or not, the procedures say what they say. So you're thinking of, Steve, you're thinking of moving into getting more certifications. This is just a starting point for you.
I am.
Do you have specifics in mind, or are you just kind of working through them? I know you just started. I'm just curious what your thought process is.
So, you want to see what vehicles you're working on the most and kind of go from there.
Right.
What is popular in your neighborhood?
Yeah. Exactly.
Is it Ford trucks? Tennessee is truck country.
Mhm.
And these vehicles are not getting, easier to work on by far.
Right.
So constantly keeping my techs as well as my riders up to date on this.
Yeah.
I think it must be done.
Yeah. Yeah, we're definitely seeing a shift towards that. I want to go back, Jerry, to you because you talked about marketing them and you said, there's a lot of things that you could do with the dealerships. I've got some ideas I can throw out to you. But what you are doing with marketing, then you're doing it directly with your guests then. Is that what you're doing, is sharing with them that you are certified? Could you mind sharing what that looks like?
Yeah, so like, we use it on our website. And so when we get that call or the first notice of loss for us, which is whether it's a phone call, whether it's, we get contacted through our website. We try to leverage our manufacturer certification. So, the phone call when we first, interact with a customer is, we don't just ask who's your insurance company. We can't look at your car until we get some approval from an insurance company.
Right.
We focus on the car, wow, well, we're certified for that. You can come to the right place. That's a conversation that we have with the customer. And then we do kind of quiz to see how they hear about us. And, we do hear it a lot, a lot of the referrals we get are because we looked you up and, social proof. One of the biggest things is, they look you up on Google, or social media. So if you don't have a good, strong presence on social media, you need to have it because more and more people are going there. All of us whether we're looking for a service, whether it be a plumber, a body shop, electrician, a lot of times somebody will get a referral from someone, but then we'll go look up. I mean, how often do we go, like if you're wanting to go to a restaurant, you go look up the Google reviews and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that's one place that we try to really, keep our presence good and, just, mention that before we start going like who your insurance company shouldn't matter. What matters is the safety and integrity of your car, so that's kind of where we focus on. So.
Yeah, online reviews are huge. I always say we're living in Google's world. That's why digital marketing, having a digital presence is so important. But for Jerry, I was looking you up earlier when we talked last time, and you've got 4.9 stars with 483 reviews. That makes a big splash when somebody's trying to decide where to go. they're going to look at those reviews and their current reviews, not like you had them from a year ago. You got current reviews, which is really important. People want to see that. Are you using any type of system to help generate those reviews? What do you do to grow that? Because that is a big piece of the puzzle that people forget about.
Yeah, so, what we do is, we really promote it with our front salespeople. And, they even have the little card where, they can hold it up, scan the card, do a Google review. If they're in a,
Good.
you got a customer picking up a car and they're really, they're encouraging them to do this,
Right.
so it helps. So, I like to say, a lot of restaurants, if you really like the service, you're going to give them a good tip. Well, I always say at Dalton Collision, we're not asking for tips, but we'd love to have a good Google review.
I love it.
And really that means a lot because that one review, who can put a price on it? It's almost like the old MasterCard commercial, it's priceless, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So it does help, I think. So yeah.
I love that. The organic reviews. Brent, did you have something you want to share?
Actually, I've even seen, and I don't know, Jerry, if you're doing it. I mean, I'll do a review because I like free stuff and it puts my name in a hat, and they're going to do a drawing every 3 months, and I could win $50, you know what I'm saying? Or whatever it is, or even a detail back at your shop, to bring your car back and say, we're going to put it in there. And, I don't care what it is, just a reason for me to fill it out, because I mean, sometimes they're just behind the 8 ball because they wrecked their car.
Mm.
Everything that we add to them is more work. You know what I'm saying? Like they're just trying to catch up.
Yeah.
I think if you've ever been we've all been in them, you're behind. You're always behind and it's a terrible situation. Oh, you want me to do one more thing? Thank you. But hey, for $50, I'll do it. I'm not mad at you.
Well, and
yeah. Sorry.
And it's almost like overwhelming. Take the Google review, take the CSI complete review or the
Yeah.
CC review. And then no, you're bombarding them. You're
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Well, I like the idea, and I've tried a million different ways with the online reviews. When I had my shop, when I worked in other shops, now with marketing, people will have a great experience. They could have the best experience. Oh, I'm going to tell all my friends and family. I'm going to leave here and leave you a 10 million star review. I loved it. And the second they drive off, life happens and they forget, right? Like everybody does it, but having them do it right at the shop. With you having such a high number, you would either have to be using a review driver system where they're either texting the customer once they left or emailing them, or conversely, or in conjunction with having that QR code at the front desk, like you're saying. So they're actually in there. If they don't do it while they're there, the only way to get them after they've left is doing like an email or text thing. And they are getting, that's what we're talking about, Brent, like being bombarded with like, well, you're going to probably get a review request from your insurance company and then from CSI Complete, or it's like all the things, right? But if they're actually at the shop and they're super happy, catch them in that moment. If you want to scan this, and if you tell people this would really help me out, we're doing our best to grow our reviews. I know people will say like, my boss loves it when we get new reviews. And if you enjoyed your experience, you can shout out any of our team members. And they're like, wow, they're much more inclined to do it. Like we just went out, we had a little vacation over the weekend and we went to a burger place and they came out, they brought our food. Super great. And they said, if you had a great experience, we're doing everything we can to grow our reviews. For them, it was, you'll get 25% off your next time you eat here if you fill this out. Well, we were vacationing. We're probably not going to be back for another year.
Yeah.
But the guy said, we're really just doing a push on reviews. It would really help us out. The guy was so sweet. So we were like, heck yeah. So everybody at the table went on and left them a review because he was just so awesome. And we just want to help the dude out. So I think when you frame it to people it would really help us out. This is what we're working to do. And he even said, if you want to name somebody, because we had multiple people coming to the table and the one guy came out and like was really great to the dogs. So we're like, we got to shout out John. He brought water to the dog, and all the things. So people are willing to help you if you frame it appropriately, not unless it's like something more to do. They want to help you. You just help them. They're super grateful. They're willing to do that for you. So I think that's why that works for you, Jerry. That's awesome.
Mhm.
Steve, did you have a question? I felt like you were going to interject there.
No,
Okay.
Just
I want to
listen.
skip over you.
I'm going to go back to the reviews really quick. And I
Yeah.
think what Mickey said and what Jerry said, super important. Everybody on this stuff, morning meetings typically, can be just mundane. We got this car to do and that car to do. But when you tell them, hey, when I get this review, I share it with the technician. When I get this
Yeah.
review, I share it with the detail person. When I get this review, I share it with the people you name.
Yes.
That's good.
It really helps me be a good leader.
For
And
sure.
that's getting the information that I didn't say it. I'm not making it up. Hey, you did a great job today. Thanks, Johnny. Johnny, he doesn't want great job. He wants, hey, Mrs. Smith thought it was great how you detailed the car.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, for putting things in a box for her. She's going to take it out and sort it out now. She had, the trunk was a mess and her car came back and everything was like really, really, really good. Sometimes that goes without a thank you internally.
Yeah.
When that
True.
customer says that, who doesn't like that? I don't care how grumpy people are. If they get a review that calls their name out, said, thank you for caring about me and my car, that's
Yeah.
going to go a long way, especially those morning meetings that they can bring those up and just get their team rolling with that stuff.
Yeah, I love
That's
that.
It's the little things like that that go a long way. And that also helps with the technicians in your shop. If you're giving them those atta girls, atta boys, you're really accomplishing a lot. You're getting the feedback from your customer and you're actually patting them on the back. I think that's great.
Yeah, because they don't usually see it, right? Like they're not checking the Google reviews. It's the last thing they're doing when they go home at night. So to share it with them, I think is really powerful. And they're so powerful when you're looking to get new customers, when you're looking to grow your business. So I think it's a great thing to point out, Brent. It's beneficial at many levels, right? Like in the shop, it's great to give the attaboys, and it's great for new customers trying to decide on which shop to go because they don't know what shop. They're choosing pretty blindly of, okay, which shop is going to be the best? Well, my insurance company said this, my neighbor said this, Google's saying that. It's a stressful time for them to decide which one's the best one to go to. And I think that's part of why bringing up the certification helps differentiate in the process of deciding. It's one other thing that you get to hang your hat on of, look at this. This is what differentiates me. This is what makes me special. You're spending so much time, effort, and money on these certifications. We've got to maximize these suckers. So website, great. Put it in the lobby, if you've got the certifications on the wall, whatever that looks like, but making sure that you're talking with them, not just assuming that they get it, that we have technicians specialized with specialized training with this brand, your vehicle. They go away to trainings across the country. Like when they know how robust this is, we've purchased specialized tooling required by Porsche to fix your 911 exactly the way that Porsche says to fix it. They're like, wow, what? Okay. Who's going to tell them that? And I always tell people, bring it up on the phone call that you're certified, because when people are shopping, they shop you. You may not think that they're shopping you. They are shopping you. If you don't tell them you're certified, but then they call the next shop and the next shop does tell them that they're certified, they're just assuming you weren't because you didn't bring it up. So
Absolutely.
That's a great point. Yep. 100%.
Yeah. Anything else we wanted to say on that? Because there was something I wanted to hop back onto before we start to wrap this guy up.
I'm going to call, I know, Steve, you've just recently been certified, but Jerry, have you ever seen a review that said, they talked about the certifications and made me feel comfortable with the repair? It's why I chose them and they followed through with it. I mean, I know that's a lot to ask, but that's kind of the big thing. It's like we're doing all this for them to say, hey, I trust them. They're going to follow the manufacturer certified repair procedures. They got certified. They had people come in and audit them to make sure they're doing the right job. And I don't know if that ends up in a Google review. That would be the ultimate,
We don't see that a lot, but now that you mention it, I have seen, people touch on it, about, how they heard about us or, this, that, and the other. But yeah, you always got to remember, they won't always, you can do the best job that you can on a car and everything's just perfect. But the old saying is, people will not remember what you did, but they'll remember how you made them feel.
That's right.
So if you make them feel really good, then that's what they remember. Yeah. So, and I think, that introduction, in the beginning, that first notice of loss, somebody said once that the 85% of your CSI score is formed in the first 5 minutes of that interaction. So if you're not really focusing on that first few minutes, that first impression, you're going to be, if you have a really good impression in the beginning, your CSI is going to be a lot easier to get,
Mm.
at the end. I've heard that somewhere.
Great point.
Yeah.
Awesome.
One thing I wanted to go back to, and then we can wrap this up, but talking about dealerships, I think it's such a huge piece of the certification puzzle because your dealership is your partner and they are going to refer work to you. And it's much easier to get a job when it's a warm handoff than just somebody going to Google, which is the number one way to get new customers right now. But more people are likely to take the recommendation of somebody, right? So having that dealer recommendation, they already have the trust with the dealership. They get their cars, they bought it there, they get their car service there. If the dealership then recommends a shop that they've partnered with, now that goes farther than them just eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Even if the insurance company were, like Brent said, we're up against a lot of things here. But creating and developing that relationship with the dealerships, I've done it personally, done dealership marketing directly for years now, over 10 plus years. And one of the things, well, there's a few things that I'll say has worked really well for me. And Jerry, you can feel free to implement or not implement whatever you want. No pressure. I'm not going to check back in on you. But
I want you to, Mickey.
okay, all right. I will. Part of it is people are like, I don't have enough staff to be able to really woo these dealerships, but I think it can be a collective effort. So one of the things that we did was once a week, so every Tuesday, early morning, we'd go get muffins or I would go get muffins or bagels, or I'd mix it up, do like a special bakery every once in a while. But every Tuesday morning, like clockwork, I would go to all of the dealerships that were on my list that we worked closely with and any that I was trying to bring on board. And I'd go there. If they didn't know me, I'd introduce. I was always talking about the certifications, and being a partner. I'm here for you. There's a regular presence. You see me every Tuesday. I'm here. Yeah, they called me the bagel girl for many years because they knew Mickey was coming in with bagels. But they loved it. And we would get chatting about their friends, about their family. How you doing? What are you doing this weekend? Now we're developing this relationship because just like you said, Jerry, people remember how you make them feel. And I just did a talk at Lexus a couple weeks ago in Vegas. 70% of decisions are made based off of emotions. And it's no different for whether they're picking a collision center or if it's the service writer trying to decide, do I refer this customer to this guy or that guy? Who are they going to pick? It's going to be the girl that sits with them, that talks about their kids, that pops in and checks on them. So we have to remember we're selling to the service people and the salespeople just as much as you're selling to your customer coming in the door. We're really trying to sell them on us, but we're not selling for the sake of selling. We're building that relationship. And so the once a week thing was huge. And then other people on the team would pop in through the week. Hey, especially if you're slow. Do you guys need anything? Do you have any lot damage you want me to take a look at for you? Pop in and see the service manager. If they've got time, they're taking the service manager out to lunch, on occasion or whatever that looks like. But just being present. But those little baked goods, they love them. They love to be fed. They love to feel important. And just to say thank you. Thank you for being a partner. Thank you for your referrals. We appreciate you. And then we would do once a quarter, like a lunch, a dealership lunch. So we would either get a taco truck, roll it out there. You can get an In-N-Out truck and you can hit multiple. During the summer months, we would get like a snow cone guy. We've got something called Kona Ice in Southern California. The Kona Ice truck, when it's hot, they love it. They're so excited when that Kona Ice truck, and we'd organize it with the service manager and ask what day and time would be best for you. We're coming by. It's inexpensive and they love it. So it's those little touches, and then bringing by your pens, notepads. If it's Christmas time, bringing Christmas gifts to the riders. And your people will start to know which service writers are referring to them more things than others. And you can get, if you want to give them like a $50 gift card, $50 to $15, $10 Starbucks card, they're stoked about. But if you've got a service writer is referring to you a lot, you'll know, and you can start giving them they just want to be appreciated. because we just want to make that emotional connection, just like our people on our team. No different. If you've got a salesperson that you find out is going through and highlighting your collision center, go thank that person. Tell them like, hey, so and so just told me that you did this. Just want to appreciate, I just appreciate you. Thank you so much. So it's like building that relationship with our dealerships is so important. The difficult thing is it takes time and it takes manpower. And that's something a lot of body shops don't have. So sometimes you got to find somebody outside of your organization to come in and help you with it. But if you can tag team it, if you go buy a bunch of bagels and one of your lot porters goes in the morning and picks up 12, 13, 15 dozen bagels and each dealership gets a dozen or whatever that looks like, and a few of you take off a half hour and just buzz those bagels out just to touch base and say thank you, you can bang that thing out. So it's possible. And it's amazing how much it starts to endear you to build that relationship with those dealerships. So just a few thoughts that I have a way more, but I feel like those were some things that really moved the needle over the course of the years. And food, for whatever reason, it brings people together and they're tired, they're hungry, a little blood sugar shot, they're happy. They look forward to it. And then when I didn't come on Tuesday, because Tuesday was every day that I would come, they'd be like, where were you? We were waiting. uh, so it's just another way to make that connection that you're not just a shop, you're a person and we care about you and we're here for you, whatever you need. And you'll start to find that they're calling you more often. They're letting you know. And then when you show up, they're like, oh, that reminds me. So-and-so just called me the other day. Would you mind? I got his car here. Would you mind taking a look at it for me? So then that starts helping drum up some business too. So just some thoughts for you, if that's helpful. You're welcome.
These are great ideas. Yeah.
Thanks.
For this.
Yeah, it really moves the needle. I'm not a big fan of doing things just for the sake of doing them to spin your wheels. But man, if you can see a return on that time investment, yeah, it can be huge. Brent, have you seen? I know you did like that luncheon thing, and that was a lunch you said that they did every
No, it was
quarter.
dinner. It was a dinner. It was a full dinner. Yeah, full dinner and a whole car show. They did it every quarter. So they brought every used car and new car. They treated them all the same.
That's awesome.
And I think people know, I mean, used cars make some good money,
Yeah.
they can. And you can help them with those used cars, getting them back and fixed the right way so that they do have a good experience with that. So yeah. And it was kind of that, it was an addition to just a car clinic. It was another piece.
Yeah.
Hey, what happens, when my car gets in a wreck? What's the best way to repair it? So we'd be there to ask all their questions, answer all their questions. We were there as a vendor and then also a presenter, and they didn't have to figure it out. They didn't have to talk about collision. That was they introduced us, warm handoff, talked about everything that was there, and then people could ask questions and people had other brands and people that had been in wrecks and they'd be asking us questions about how to handle things. So it was really good. It was a good community effort for us and the dealership to work together, and there were cases, it's not often, but there were cases when people totaled their vehicle and they have 3 or 4 different choices of dealers to go to. And they're like, well, who do you like to work with? Well, we're certified to work with this dealer. So there is a wrap up. It doesn't happen a lot, but who do you like to work with? I mean, I want to buy another Nissan or I want to buy another Porsche or whatever it is. If there's more than one option there, you say, well, we work with them. They're great. They help us get the right parts. If they ever have any problems, they expedite things for us. They just do a great job to support us. So it's still just another area to talk to them about. But it was really just us being, car people that want to help them fix them. That's all it was. We're just fixing cars. That's what we're doing, and it's all these complicated things, but the manufacturers built those cars. And that certification process goes right back to them saying, hey, this is how you do it. And it lets you sleep at night saying, I did it that way. And that's repair procedures, but there's a whole lot more to those repair procedures when you're certified. So I think there's some things that can really help out doing those programs. So I want to see them do more with the programs. I think it's great. So
Clay Hobright, I don't know if you guys know him. He owns Best Body Shop in Wichita, Kansas, and he does, I don't know how often he does it, but he'll have an event, like a family event, where he invites people out and they've got they've got burger trucks, they have jumpies for the kids, and they've got live music, and they'll tour people through the shop and do shop tours. I think they even do a car show, or maybe the car show is a separate thing. He does all kinds of stuff at his shop, and they're constantly drilling down, like, this is what makes us different. We're fixing the vehicle according to the repair procedures, the manufacturer's repair procedures. These are our certifications. So it's educational with fun, but they get amazing turnout every time they do it. And then I think the car show thing is a separate thing that they also do there. So there's lots of things you can even do at your shop just for the community at large, because it's a feel good thing. And at that time, then you get to be in front of people to educate them, which at this point in time with certifications, education is like the number one key to all of this, in my opinion.
Totally
Not
agree.
that that matters, but in my opinion. Well, I appreciate you guys and being so open and honest and willing to share, and great ideas that have been posed here, Steve. Some great questions from you, and now some ideas for you too as you start down this path, which is cool. So if you want to go see these guys, just a reminder, we've got the Music City Collision Conference coming up, and it's in September. You have plenty of time to RSVP. And I don't know how much marketing is going out yet about this, because I know we're a little bit a ways away, but I just got to tell you guys, if you're listening, the speakers are awesome. This is one of the best show lineups I've seen. Mike Anderson, who's always insane. We've got Sean Preston, who I talked to the other day. He's coming out. He actually has a law firm, and he's talking about some ways to help get the bill paid. And it's pretty incredible. We've got Rick Sullover. You know him from the Collision Cocktail Hour with me. He's got a podcast. He's from Garmat, talking about contamination. Mark Olson of Vico Experts, getting paid. Not a normal conversation, yet an effective one. Mark is always great. I love him. Matt DiFrancesco with Laura Gay, my two good buddies. And they're talking about building the value of your collision repair shop, because eventually you're going to need to exit. At some point in time, you're moving on, folks. You're going to retire. You're leaving. How can you build the value in your shop? Dave Lure, we all love Dave. He's going to be speaking. We've got Mary Mahoney with Enterprise. Mike Jones, the Mike Jones. Man, that's going to be good. Greg Peters of Car ADAS, talking about ADAS calibrations. Hopefully I'm not forgetting anybody, but wow, that is an incredible lineup over 2 days, right? The conference will last 2 days.
Yes.
Awesome. So I'm going to put the link below so you guys can register for this. If you want to be a sponsor, there's some sponsorship opportunities. There's also going to be a Top Golf event. Steve, do you want to talk about the Top Golf event? What day is that?
We're still deciding on the Top Golf event just a little bit.
Okay. So we don't know if that's going to happen.
We don't know just yet.
Mm-hmm. All right. We'll go to the conference.
Scheduling conflicts there.
Okay. All right. Well, the conference is going to be awesome. There's going to be the trade show floor in addition to all of the speakers. So I'm trying to get my schedule to line up so I can make it, because this is going to be awesome. And it's in Nashville.
It's Music City.
What?
Yes.
I mean, wow.
It's our first annual, so we're real excited about it. So I've been fortunate enough to get to attend a few times in the Carolina. Carolina's got a really good thing going, and it's so awesome. And we're really hoping that, this being Tennessee, it's our first, and it's going to be the sign of good things to come. So there's actually going to be some, as far as any shops in Tennessee that maybe they thought about the association, they don't know what it's about, or maybe they got more questions or want to see some good stuff. I welcome all of them to come. There's going to be some shops that are really good. Top, you mentioned Mike Anderson is one of the speakers. There's going to be some really good shops. It's going to, out of state, that's in other states, it's going to be able to visit us. And we're really looking forward to having them there, and having a good networking event, among shops. So I'm excited.
Yeah. You don't have to have a shop in Tennessee to come to this thing. There's going to be a ton of education. And like you said, one of my favorite parts about conferences weren't always the sessions. It was out in the hallways, at the bar in the evening. I got so much from other shop owners as a shop owner. So there's going to be a lot of really good shops there. So yeah, I'll put the link there. So if you guys want to purchase tickets, and my best buddy, Laura Gay, says there's a honky tonk right next door. So that's going to have to happen. I've never been. So
I'll see you there.
Yeah, right. It's a date. We're going. So anyway, wanted to make sure that we touched on that. Make sure you get your tickets and head out there. It's going to be so fun, so educational. So I'm really excited for that. But a great conversation with you guys today. Super appreciate your time, especially Brent. Brent's right at the ocean and popped in, was swimming in the ocean this morning and came in to talk with us. And so now he's headed back to the bar and back out in the water.
Back to the come on.
Yeah.
So,
For that,
there
for
you
sure.
go. It was definitely good. Hey, thanks for having us, Mickey. I really appreciate you bringing up this topic and bringing it up to everybody's to the forefront what they're thinking about. So
Yeah,
I
for
think we
sure.
struggle with what certifications are, and we're in the business. Customers got to get educated. I think that's the biggest thing for everybody. So
Great
that's
point, Brent. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you guys for joining. Everybody, thank you for listening. If you're on YouTube, make sure you hit subscribe and like this video. If you liked it, it tells YouTube that this is good content for people in the collision industry and helps us get it out to more people. And then you can also subscribe or follow on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever you like to listen on. You can also subscribe there, and you'll typically get a notification on your phone when a new episode drops. They drop every 2 weeks. So we hope you loved it, and we hope you liked it, and we hope you share it if you love this. I think this is going to help a lot of shops, you guys. This was great content today. So thank you, everybody, and we will see you next time, and hopefully at the Music City Conference. Bye.
Bye-bye.